welcome to the Future of Digital Discipleship webinar. Yeah, like Taylor just said, my name is Joe Jensen, and Taylor, we both work at Barna, and we're excited about today's program. And we apologize for some of the technical difficulties right at first. So again, if you're just making your way in, if you could please, first of all, mute yourself. Just push mute on your window there, your video window, and then if you want to not only mute yourself but maybe stop your video as well, that would be awesome. We're going to give everyone about another minute to make their way in. We're going to try to make some technical adjustments as well. By the way, if you also want to come in and click on those three little bubbles at the top right of your window, your video window, and you can change your name as well, so that everyone is Hannah Andrews. So that would be awesome. Welcome everyone. So Taylor, it's starting to feel like fall finally, right? You're in Virginia, I think, today. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely my type of weather. Kind of come alive with the new fall crisp air, and it's been really great. Texas, though, a lot of us are in Texas, and it's still summer. It doesn't change seasons there.
It's just like different variations of summer in Texas. Same thing in Arizona, right? I grew up in Arizona. It was just like different, just a few degrees off, but it's still like just a different version of summer. But yeah, it's great to be kind of in the fall, get the crisp fall weather, starting to see the leaves change. But we're just glad to have like hundreds of leaders who are wanting to grow in this area of digital discipleship, right? And first of all, that's like a big first step, is just saying, hey, we want to learn, we want to grow. And we know it can be a really daunting topic. You know, we live in this hyper digital age. Everything seems to be moving so quickly, so fast. So the first step is for us just to pause every once in a while and realize, hey, there's a lot to learn. And, you know, for people, for all of you here today, first of all, just being reminded that technology is a fragile thing sometimes, right? We're navigating some technical difficulties right now, and that's okay. There's grace that kind of covers us as leaders, right? Whether it's sending out the wrong link for Zoom and everyone's now in the panel for our webinar, or just like trying to figure things out, trial and error. And I know a lot of people, leaders here, you're like, okay, where do I start? And we're going to talk about that today, but we just want to cover this whole conversation in grace, knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have all the right answers. If you try something and it fails, that's okay. Learn, iterate, try again. That's the whole thing with digital discipleship, especially as quickly as it's moving. And so Taylor, even at Barna, we're figuring this out too, right? I mean, technology is moving so fast. We want to serve church leaders really well, but I mean, we're trying to keep up with all these trends too, which is why I wanted you to be my co-host today, because you are one of our fearless leaders in trying to help us advance in some of these technological trends. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I was listening to someone recently who's an expert in this space of AI and digital, and it's all changing, right? So quickly. He was even saying that we're all kind of, no one's yet in college in the world of AI or digital, because it's kind of started with the, advancement of AI has been so quick. So how do we stay on top of it as a church? I'm just so excited to dive into this topic. Now's the time, right? And it can be scary. But it doesn't need to be, because we're not supposed to have a spirit of fear, right? So how do we tackle this with boldness? And along the way, it's going to help save time and us reach more people in this next generation.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Good word. That's a great way to kind of kick us off. I want to bring on Chris Sharp, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Subsplash. So Chris, if you can kind of manually manage your camera and stuff, we're gonna have you come on. I also want to make sure you're spotlit, so I'm gonna add a spotlight here. Chris, thanks for being on here. And by the way, thanks for partnering with us. Like, this is a partnership that goes back, a few years, several months, where we've been working on some resources together, which we're going to share in a little bit. But Chris, like, you guys are great partners. And so it's great that we get to do this webinar with you guys, because you guys are actually probably more experts in this area than we are. You guys have been doing this for years, for decades. So Chris, maybe just quickly introduce yourself. And for those people who don't know about Subsplash, I would love for you to tell us who you guys are and why you guys exist.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Joe and Taylor. Blessed to be here. And And also, thanks for how you have led through even the kickoff to this meeting. I think as a church, we operate in fast-paced times, and also get to show the world how we care and we have grace and we do this together. So I love it. Appreciate that. It was fun seeing even some faces pop up on the video. Your name may have been Hannah, but I saw you, Phil, pop up. That was fun to see some friends on the call. But yeah, so I'm Chris, blessed to be here and partner with Barna. We love Barna, and we get to leverage a lot of the insights and data to help connect the dots for churches. So for us, Subsplash, actually just first, the name Sub is to be submitted to God. Splash is the focus on innovation. And so we are a company that exists with a mission statement to glorify God and proclaim Jesus as Lord. And we've been doing this for 20 years, but working with churches, worked with about 20,000 churches with a digital engagement platform. So how do we connect the dots with discoverability, websites, website builders, mobile apps, moving into sermon delivery, and then driving all that engagement into, I think we're hearing one of the Hannahs. We got you.
Like for one
No, that's
movie.
good. And Chris,
So I was
appreciate that.
thinking-
I didn't actually know about Subsplash, the name breakdown. I thought that was really cool. But we're hearing some kind of voices come in. So again, if you're just making your way in, if you can hear us, please mute yourself. And Hannah, maybe behind the scenes, you can try to mute people on our end as well. But
we're gonna remind them about.
I'm gonna try to actually find.
Um,
Okay, you guys might have to mute. I'm gonna mute
Mexico
everyone.
House. And then next week we'll do hosted series.
Okay, I just muted everyone.
Nice.
And now I'm going to ask everyone to, okay. I might have to do that a couple different times, but yeah, Chris, thank you so much for that vision. And that's why we love partnering. So by the way, I tell people this all the time. Barna doesn't really work as well without partners. Like we love doing our thing, but we have a huge like heart for partnerships because we know that we're called to do a very special thing, which is bring research insights into the world to help leaders understand the times and know what to do. But we understand that like we do that better together when other kingdom-minded partners come together to kind of solve a problem together, to create solutions, to equip the church in ways that we're both gifted and called to do. So I love what you guys bring. Hey, I want to actually share my screen and just share a couple things that we're both working on, that we've been working on together, right? The first thing is we want to make everyone aware of this free download. So Barna and Subsplash came together to create this brand new free download called When Technology Leads to Transformation. So today's webinar, we're going to bring you through some highlights from this. But if you want to go deeper and you want to share maybe what you've learned today, like in a really concise, easy to share resource with maybe your staff, your elders, you know, your fellow ministry friends, this is a great thing. You can share this link with as many people as you want. It's free to everyone. So this features 5 insights, and then there's 5 kind of like insight to action type of practical takeaways in the last half of this resource that we think could be really helpful. We also interviewed Nona Jones, Carrie Newhoff, and Kenny Jang, and we have insights from them from those interviews in this guide. So this launches today, so you can go to barna.com/subsplash, or you can scan that QR code to get that. So we just want to encourage you to take advantage of that. And then Chris, there's something coming up big. I love the big bold letters. Like, can you tell us what the Subsplash product event is and how we can get connected?
Yeah, for sure. And we would love for everyone to come join. So at Subsplash, you know, a lot of people may have heard of us from, you know, building technology, mobile apps and websites, sermon delivery, CHMS. We have AI tools, but really connected tools for helping every church find a way to nurture discipleship in your church, from discovery to daily discipleship. And we have a team of about 300 people that are working on this every day. How do we innovate for the church? How are we looking around the corners? And at this product event coming up November 12th, you can see the link below, subsplash.com/product-event. We'll be rolling out 8 new products and enhancements, as well as announcing 3 other upcoming tools. It has to do with connectivity, presentation, sermons, giving, but also a lot with AI and how it helps churches navigate the future. So we would love for you to come join and hear about those new events, as well as some of the things we've recently built.
It's awesome. Can't wait. It kind of has a little bit of like, I think some type of new phone's going to be presented there too. I mean, it has like, I love, I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to roll out there. But hey, Chris, we're going to let you go right now and we're going to bring you back on to bring some commentary on one of our insights in a little bit. But Taylo, what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different than we do for most webinars that we're a part of. Normally, we'll just kind of pack the first part of the webinar full of research insights, and then we'll take the second half of the webinar and maybe unpack that what we learned through some guest expert interviews. We're going to do this a little bit different. We're going to take it one insight at a time, and you and I are going to kind of guide the conversation in these kind of like TED style, like little 8-minute sections where we're going to take an insight, talk about some research, and then unpack it as we go. So I think it's going to be fun, right? So let's get started with our first, and I'm sorry, I'm managing things as I go, so apologize. I'm going to take this spotlight off here. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get going with the first insight. So Taylo, I mentioned before that you're kind of, I always kind of tell everyone that you're kind of our resident like AI expert at Barna. You're always pushing us to like, hey, why don't we think about this? Or like, hey, there's this new tool that I think could be helpful. And you're also been guiding us into like a wise, responsible way to use these tools. And so I thought, hey, I want to bring you on for this first one. So you and I are going to kind of swap. I'm going to interview you for this first one. We'll swap for the second one. But insight number one that we highlight in the insight guide, that the free download, is that AI is reshaping ministry. And the question for us leaders is, how can we respond? So I want to show this first chart to you and get your commentary on this. And then I got a few questions to kind of bring you through to kind of help us turn this insight into action. So Taylor,
Yeah.
what's your take on this?
Oh man, you started off with AI is reshaping ministry. It's reshaping the world as we know it, right? And so, super passionate about it. Thanks for that intro. I mean, I really get encouraged by looking at this stat because I think it shows that pastors are really, taking a good approach to AI, what I would call kind of a moral or ethical approach to it. It says that, they're not allowing AI to really, or they're not that comfortable with AI forming how they do counseling or maybe sermon writing. What they're using it for is for marketing and for communications, learning, things that are really helping them save their time, right? So it says 78% are comfortable using it with marketing, communication, whereas only 12 feel comfortable using this for sermons. That's healthy discernment to me. And, there's a lot of AI tools, though, that can really help with saving time. Now, we have Subsplash on this call. I think I just saw that they released just what do you do with your sermon after it's produced, right? A lot of these cool AI tools, including this one from Subsplash, can help you edit your clips and get it out to social to amplify our voice, to amplify the good news. But it doesn't have to write the sermon. So, how can we still use discernment? How can we let our counseling, our shepherding be led by the Holy Spirit, being led by God? But then, how can we use these tools to really increase our efficiency? That's the real win. And so I'm seeing an increase in Christians leading in this space, which is great. The church needs to continue to have a voice, and it's all about being educated, right? And we can kind of get into that too here in this next question. But I'm encouraged to see that the church is using discernment and how they're using it. It's a great tool to shape and save time in the areas we need to most. So that way we're freed up to do the things that matter, discipleship and counseling and shepherding the congregation.
Yeah. When I looked at this chart the first time I saw it a few months ago, I was really encouraged because I think there's like what you said, discernment is like actively going on in so many churches where we're starting to see, okay, there's some things that are obvious that we should not be using AI for, or if we should be carefully using AI for. And so I like the fact that there's an openness on the top part of the chart here to say like, hey, there's some things that, yeah, AI, like God's given us these resources to be able to use. Let's, I think like, that's healthy. And then there's some things that like are causing some more caution. And you talked about discernment and wisdom, and I think that's important. Where is the opportunity for the church to lead the conversation on AI? Because there's the application of AI, which there's some things that we can do practically as leaders to use AI, but there's also this responsibility for us to guide our people, to guide the
Yep.
conversation in the realm of AI. So give us some tips and things to think about.
Oh man, the way people are consuming content and making decisions is changing. So I was just listening to this podcast. It talked about, no longer as communicators are we trying to win the hearts and minds of people. In the digital space, we actually have to win the heart and machines. Now, what do I mean by machines, right? That could be a little scary. To kind of give, I don't know where everyone's at, and again, Joe, you said it well. I love that we could see some faces on this call. It adds a, personal touch to, I love that I'm speaking to people that are in the space that really care. So when I say machines, I'm talking about AI and these learning language models, these large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini, they all get fed by different sources. ChatGPT is getting fed by Reddit, and Gemini, which is Google's product, is getting fed by YouTube, right? I didn't say the Bible, I said these big open sources. They're getting fed by lots of different morals and values and thoughts. And so, I think first knowing and being educated, what are you asking these machines? Where are they sourcing that information is so important as a church. You can ask these models like ChatGPT to get their information from the Bible. You can say, hey, I want you to have a Bible source in this. But the cool thing is, again, there's like these Christian organizations that are leading this space that are sourcing their LLMs, these large language models, on biblical sources. And ChatGPT and Gemini, they're sourcing them from very public sources. So being educated, that's the first thing we can do, right? Do you know those things as you're leading and shepherding your church? Are you educated on what these different AI tools are doing and what the information you're getting? Where is it coming from? Where is that model learning from, right? That's going to help because, like I was saying, we're trying to win the hearts and machines. You need to know the source. And so that's one thing. The second thing is people are confronting AI everywhere, right? People in your church or your ministry, or you are too. And so, it could be in your jobs or schools. And as a church, we have to not lead in fear, but be educated about what these programs are doing and know which ones we can utilize with wisdom, and with good education and modeling a healthy and redemptive engagement with these. It can
Mhm.
save time. It can save a lot of time, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are using AI anyways. So I would just say, let's be educated. Let's not be fearful because it's going to be everywhere. And so, how can we lead in this space utilizing tools like what Subslash is creating that we know has, lines with our beliefs and biblical beliefs, and isn't going to kind of lead us astray. So yeah, that's kind of where I take that. It's the time for the church to be leading this conversation. We can't be sitting back, or culture will it will lead. Culture will lead our congregations, our people, our shepherd flock in a different direction. So, how can the church be educated and speak into these spaces?
Yeah. And that's important too. And here's the thing, like we said this at the beginning, like it, you might be thinking like, okay, I didn't sign up for ministry to be an AI expert or to be a tech expert.
Right.
But that's why, I mean, that's why organizations like Subsplash exist, right? Like Subsplash knows, and this isn't a shameless plug for like Subsplash. This is just reality because I mean, I was a full-time pastor for 20 years. I remember thinking, as tech savvy as I was when I was younger, like I just didn't have time to invest in all of these things or to learn all these things. So when I used Subsplash back in the day as a pastor in Omaha, and they did something that we couldn't afford to do or I didn't have the expertise to do. And since then, they've increased those tools even more. And so yeah, there's just you don't have to do this alone. But like you have some great principles there, it's just do your best to educate yourself, to be in the know so you can like wisely shepherd your people. And but just know that like there's experts out there, there's organizations that can help you do that. So thanks for sharing that, Taylor. So we're going to move on to insight number two. Um, and this one, Taylor, I'm going to comment on this one, but yeah, the loneliness epidemic is a digital discipleship opportunity. Um, so this first chart here, an emotional snapshot across generations. So I'm going to jump right in here, Taylor, and just kind of like give my kind of initial thoughts on what I'm seeing here. The first
Yeah.
thing I think we all see is it's pretty obvious that the Gen Z columns kind of they pop, right? So that's the first place we go to is we're seeing that, um, with all of these kind of like pretty standard like emotions, and a lot of these are kind of more on the negative side of these emotions, like uncertainty about the future, anxiety about important decisions, loneliness, isolation. We're seeing that Gen Z spikes in a lot of these areas. And this may not surprise us, right? Because we know, and David Kinnaman's going to talk about this in a little bit, just you know, like they're, for the most part, Gen Z is digitally native. This is all they've ever known. Some people like to joke, that, a lot of our kids were born with phones in their hands, right? Like they're digital natives. And we might say that like it's technology that has exacerbated some of these negative emotions. I think that's true. Maybe there's truth to that, obviously, but I think there's so much more to it, and we have to be paying attention to look at that. But, I have four Gen Z, Gen Zers at home, three of them are at home, one of them's at college, and we're dealing with a lot of these emotions too, even in a Christian home. So, that's one thing to just notice is that obviously our young people are struggling with these things more. So just really practically speaking, like I really believe that across all the different parts of our ministries within in the church setting, and I know we're talking mostly to church leaders here, but no matter what ministry you're in, we need to be thinking intergenerationally, and we need to be recognizing the fact that even though some of these trends kind of spike, or some of these stats spike for Gen Z, uh, there's still concern. Millennials and Gen X are still struggling with uncertainty about the future and anxiety with important decisions, just maybe in different ways because they're in different life stages, different life forces at play. But I think we need to be paying attention to the fact that across a number of different generations, we know that technology can kind of help connect people, but it also leaves us feeling that much lonelier. And that's where the opportunity comes in, Taylor, is, I don't know, we've all probably been there, right? Where maybe a tough life struggle or some darker emotions, like as kind of opens people up to like asking those big life questions. There's got to be something more to life than this. Is there meaning? Is there purpose? Is there significance for me to experience in my life? And I think the opportunity, the loneliness epidemic, the opportunity there is we know that on the other side, let's just take the pandemic, for example. We know that 3 out of 4 people in the US said they're more open to God um, after the pandemic than they were before the pandemic. So this huge global shared struggle and this shared experience led all of us as a society to be more open to God. And we've seen that trend continue to play out in a lot of different ways, especially amongst the younger generation. So the big thing is, do we have a response for those big life questions, for that spiritual curiosity? And so I would just say, let's make sure we understand before we jump to the opportunity, that we truly understand what's going on, what's causing these negative emotions. So that's the first thing. Let's learn and listen to to everyone in these generations, especially to young people. Let's ask them why they're uncertain about the future. Let's really get down underneath like what's leading to some of this anxiety, this loneliness. And then let's meet them with not just another program, not just another event, but with meaningful relational community-based opportunities for them to grow and connect. Because in this world where they're flooded with content, where they're flooded with digital tools, what we see time and time again in our research is that they just want more connection. They want more relationship. And the good news is that the church can give it to them. We have the answer to the deepest questions they have in life, the deepest longings. So that's the opportunity, right? The loneliness epidemic produces this opportunity for really incredible ways for us to disciple people, both physically in person, but also digitally online. All right. So we got through the first couple insights, Taylor. I'm going to let you take a quick little break, and I'm going to bring Chris Sharp back on. So we'll see you back here in a little bit. But Chris, this leads to insight number 3, which is U.S. churchgoers want more than a sermon to help them grow. Okay, so this may seem obvious for some people, but I think for a lot of people, we might be surprised at this, right? Like, okay, I thought the sermon was the main event. I thought this was it. If I just deliver a great sermon, I've done my job as a pastor. And we're seeing our research that people want more than a sermon. So talk about your perspective on this dynamic. What gives you kind of hope and what encourages you about this? And how does this play into what you guys are called to do at Subsplash? Oh, I need to unmute you. Sorry. Okay, I think you should be able to. There you go.
You
Sorry.
got me. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
I was figuring out how should I tell you I was on mute.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Yeah, I think this is just very clearly showing. If you look here at a digital resource, 3/4 of people saying yes, give us a digital hub. We got digital communication, virtual counseling or support is very interesting. Analytics, which is something we're finding just increasingly. And AI can be used tremendously to help also in that efficiency gain. And then digital discipleship tools. It shouldn't be surprising in many ways because today, and not that this is good, but the average person spends 45 hours a week on their mobile phone. Over 90% of that time is spent inside of mobile apps. And I think a lot of people would be maybe surprised by that, but then you might look at your phone and start looking at your time use spent. It's a lot. People are already in a digital world. In fact, the average person also will touch, swipe, or click their phone 2,617 times a day, which I find, if we were to ask Joe, like, hey, we're going to sit down and we're just going to spend the next several hours tapping, touching, or swiping to get to 2,617. But it happens fast because people are, interacting online. And then we start thinking about the church. The average person that's new, that's interested, and we're going to get to more of this later in this session, especially with the younger generations, but they're going to check out your church 7 times online before they ever walk through your doors. So things are changing dramatically. And it's clearly content is king in all of those when they broke down even by demographic. So they broke it down by generations. What are the most used apps? YouTube is number 1 with the most users across all generations. But for time spent, it's TikTok, which shows you it's that people want content. And then as you kind of start transitioning that digital landscape into AI, I think really that was well spoken, Taylor, on thinking through the generational shift and then also how AI is transforming our world. But even to the loneliness, over 70% of teens have said they use AI for companionship. So if that's the state of the world that we're in and the people, and then we're asking Christians and they're saying, yes, we want to engage digitally, it's a tremendous opportunity for the church to respond.
It is. Yeah. And we could look at it like, okay, the world is doomed because of all this. Or we could say, okay, this is like we're called for such a time as this as leaders. Like, let's step into this with courage and let's do it together. And that's why I love all of us are in this webinar, right? Because we're all like, we need help figuring this out. So I love that charge there. But so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that hold us back, Chris, because I think we have to make sure we recognize that there are some things that in all of us, no matter if we consider ourselves tech savvy or not, there's some things that can hold us back from really kind of diving into this idea of digital discipleship. Tell us, what in your experience, what are some of those things that hold us back, and then what are some of the things that kind of help us maybe break through some of those barriers?
Right. I think you said it well too, Joe. Working in ministry, you may not have gone to seminary, you may not have been trained on technology. Certainly not on AI. There are some universities we're doing partnership with SEU, and they're actually training students on AI today, which is very cool. But whether it's mobile apps, whether it's websites, you weren't trained on technology. And I think we find ourselves in the human spirit of getting kind of trapped in certain modes of this is how we've always done it. It might be, maybe we always pass the offering basket and that is the way to do it. It might be we will want to print out a physical piece of paper to put in people's hands. And not that those things are inherently wrong. It's just there's new modes and medians. So I think that's probably the biggest barrier, Joe, is just we do what we've always done.
Yeah.
In the church, we tend to have, it's kind of like, raise your hand if this has been you ever, but we do a lot of different roles and we do a lot of different things. And it's really hard to keep up with the changing times and pastoring people and caring well for community and just kind of like pausing a minute to work on the process for how would we authentically nurture and disciple people. So I think we just get trapped, in the way we've always done it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're not pointing fingers, right? Because like I remember this, like, gosh, I remember just wanting to embrace technology and embracing technology in a lot of ways when I was pastoring in a church, but also just there was like Taylor said this about fear, like there's sometimes fear of the unknown, and that actually like causes us to actually then fall back into our comfort zones even more, right?
Right.
So a lot of this is just, I mean, not to over spiritualize it, but it's like kind of an interfaith journey for all of us leaders of
Right.
like breaking through those things of like fear and the unknown, stepping out in faith, but also doing it with wisdom and discernment, right? We don't want to just adopt these digital tools because they're the latest and greatest thing without discerning the ethics behind it, the theology behind it, which, by the way, in that guide, in this free download, we provide some steps for you to really think through the importance of like developing kind of a theology of technology,
Right.
a concise document where you go back to scripture, you consult, some trusted advisors in your church community, and you say like, what do we believe about technology, about digital discipleship? And so that's a great kind of step if you're wondering, where do we go from here from this webinar? That would be one thing to consider is just, first of all, just know what you believe about digital discipleship and what you believe about God and all the space in between, and then take some steps forward, because I think once you kind of educate yourself, to Taylor's point, you can start to step into the future, maybe kind of shedding some of those fears and being more confident in what you're trying to do in this realm. So Chris, I want to end by just because, again, like this is more than just plugging Subsplash. Like you guys actually are what I would consider ministry partners. That's that when you go to subsplash.com and you kind of look at everything you guys do, I'm like, okay, there's obviously a ministry partnership play here, not just, hey, we're just selling leaders a bunch of stuff. So with that spirit in mind, can you just tell us like, how are you coming alongside church leaders in some real practical ways? So take 60 seconds and give us
Sure.
like the rundown of what Subsplash can offer church leaders in this realm.
Yeah, for sure. And there's obviously technology, and I'll just speak to that real quick too, Joe. There can be a fear of change, and we talk about internally, it's not the fear of failure, it's the magnitude of hope. There's so much opportunity in front of us. And just taking that next step. So for us, not only technology, which I'll speak to very quickly, but also as partners, we have client success managers, ministry consultants. We want to really come alongside because we have people that get to talk to thousands of churches on a regular basis who want to help you. And those are available. That's something we are going to continue to invest in, is people that are partners as well as on the tech side. So think about Subsplash as we're saying world-class engagement invites people to participate in the mission of your church. And so whether that's the platforms and channels of mobile apps, websites, TV apps, CarPlay, that then you put your content into sermon delivery, live streaming, hosting, then into the communication and more of the CHMS side of messaging, SMS, email, group messaging, child check-in, event management, and all of that flows through into tools that have AI for content follow-up, small groups, curriculum, short videos for your Instagram, and then flows into giving and payments. We just believe, it's not about giving. That's just a byproduct of engaging people on a discipleship journey. So with all of that, there's a lot that we do. We want to click it together to simplify for every church your process to save you time and increase your impact. And if you're going to start somewhere, just start with being discoverable. How do people find you? If they're going to search for you 7 times, are you putting your best foot forward as a digital doorstep? And then your next step is bringing people into the ongoing discipleship journey of daily content.
And like we've been saying, if you need help with that, check out Subsplash, because you guys are a trusted partner in that, and you can help them from discovery to discipleship, that whole process in between. You guys are a great partner in that. So, hey, Chris, thank you for your, our partnership together. It means a lot. And then thanks for your wisdom that you brought just now. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, great conversation. I love this topic, and I'm so excited to see so many amazing faces here that are also engaged and excited about discipleship in the digital space and the amazing tools there are. These are just a great way to stay on top of it, right? So insight number 4, Gen Z is digitally native, spiritually open, and craving connection. Hey, David. As we are seeing on the slide, Gen Z lives in tension, right? They're more connected than ever, yet they're often feeling really alone. They might be digitally native, or they are, but they crave real in-person relationships. They know they're online too much, but yet don't know how to live without their phones. So, David, with this, how do we do discipleship with this generation amidst these seemingly opposing, forces?
Well, thanks everybody for joining. I'm David, and so great to be with you. And again, grateful for Subsplash and their partnership on this study. I think it's a really cool way for us to advance some really important conversations. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. I've actually been thinking about this subject of discipleship in digital Babylon, and how do we help this next generation understand their perspective. So, how do we help them grow deep roots in Christ in a time of sort of digital connection and disconnection. So let's take a look at a few of these numbers just to give us a sense of what's happening. I think I'll have share screen. So there we go. So these are just the numbers you just were looking at there. I think these are important for us to take a look at. So in-person relationships are more valuable than digital relationships. Half of all Gen Zers think that is true. My generation spends too much time online, 46%. And you can see there's like almost a counter trend to the digital context. I saw yesterday on social media, of all things, a delete party where a bunch of young people went to a park and just deleted some of their social media apps. So there's kind of a counter trend to some of the digital immersion that we live in. I've built a community of friends through online experiences, and you can see 29% of teenagers and young adults say that's true. I wish that I spent less time online. That's 27% of all Gen Zers. And then online relationships are just as meaningful to me as in-person relationships, 1/4 of all young people. So just as you were saying, Taylor, I think we're living in this very interesting kind of fluid space between real life relationships and online relationships. Certainly online is here to stay. We have to grapple with that well as church leaders, as people of faith, help people understand that their roots go deep into Jesus. And then to give people opportunities for real, like the letters are IRL, in real life. And so how do we give people a chance to sort of connect to older mentors? We're seeing a lot of that importance for a very disconnected generation to be connected to older generations as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you have a few more slides here that go into the rise in commitment to Jesus across the country, particularly within and among Gen Z. When we're seeing like renewed spiritual openness and belief in Jesus. Can you walk us through what you're seeing here and help us understand how church leaders, should interpret these trends?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this is some of the most exciting data we've released, I think, in a long time. And it's exciting because it shows a real spiritual renewal or openness to Jesus. So I think you can see my little cursor here. So, we see that since the low point of COVID at 54% of all Americans who said they'd made a commitment to Jesus, it's been slowly and steadily increasing now to 66%. So that's 30 million more Americans today than at the depths of COVID who
Wow.
say they're committed to Jesus. That's a huge impact. And now we have to disciple them. We have to find ways of helping them to stay connected. Digital tools are just part of that. We have to use digital in some meaningful way for our times. It's just like you've got to have some of the basics of organizing and helping people to stay connected. So digital tools are important in that. Digital discipleship, digital evangelism. People are very open. And then on this next slide, you'll notice there's a growing percent of people who say they're not Christians, but are also committed to Christ. The simple way to understand that is that people can mark different answers in our surveys. And so people can be an atheist and they pray. In this case, we're seeing people who say they're committed to Jesus, but they also say they're not a Christian. That I think tells us that there is a real bubbling out of the normal boundaries for people in terms of what it is they expect. There's like a commitment to Jesus is rising in a lot of unexpected places. That's a good thing. It shows us there's renewal in parts of our society that wouldn't ordinarily consider themselves to be Christian. But again, the importance then of moving them towards using the label of Christian, getting them into a church, helping them understand what, as they're doing searches and trying to understand what it means to be a Jesus follower, how can we really help connect them both digitally and in real relationship. And then finally, this notion that a lot of this commitment to Jesus is being led by younger generations. So you see Gen Z and millennials, and especially Gen Z and millennial men being most likely to have grown in their commitment to Jesus over the last 6 or so years. Again, a very important indicator that there's a sort of spiritual renewal and openness. People are open to anything and everything, but how can we help them really latch on to the real Jesus and to be discipled in the way of Jesus in the days to come? So really exciting times. This is like, these are the days we've been praying for as Christian leaders, for our kids and grandkids and the younger generations to be open to Jesus. I think there's some really, really cool opportunities with all of that.
How exciting. I mean, yeah, I get really pumped looking at this and understanding the openness and the hunger that there is in this next generation, and just the rise of faith and church engagement. David, let's get practical though. So the people here want to know, what's the takeaway? What can they do? How can they respond to insights like this?
Well, I think first of all, the importance of connecting people across these generations. We see an interest among Gen Z to be mentored. I've been thinking a lot about Second Timothy 1, and we're gonna get to. Sorry, I jumped onto insight number 5. I see the question there. We're gonna get to insight number 5 in just a minute, but I clicked a little bit too fast. My bad. So we'll come back to that in a second. But I've been thinking about Second Timothy 1 for the last couple of years as a pattern for discipling, even in the digital context. So this is Paul's last letter before he dies, and he's writing to Timothy, his son in the Lord, and he is reminding him of his prayers for him, his warm emotional connection. He remembers the mother and grandmother, Lois and Eunice. He says to fan into flames the spiritual gifts that God has given you. He says God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. A perfect verse for an anxious generation. And then he says, don't be afraid to suffer for the gospel. So I think that little pattern is very important in all times and in any time, but especially in this time, that we would have a warm, emotional, prayerful connection. We would remind people of where they come from, their parents, their grandparents, their community, who they are made to be in Christ. We remind them of their gifts and giftedness, that their gifts matter, even and especially in a digital age. We give them a sense that God's not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and sound mind. And then we remind them that we're all on mission with Jesus to share the gospel, and that's going to cost us something. That's going to be an act of suffering. I think we prepare this generation for success, but we don't prepare them for suffering. So digital natives need to be prepared for suffering, because that is the way of Jesus. That takes us to the cross. That allows for our stories to have deep and lasting impact, because we get to testify to how Jesus showed up in our own suffering. So 2 Timothy 1, a great place to get practical and to be biblical at the same time.
Yeah, I think that wraps around perfectly to what we're saying. Digital tools, AI, are amazing for helping us, save time. But somebody said in the chat, there's no substitution for human connection. All generations are craving, that human touch, right? And so I hear you kind of saying that too. How can we continue to deliver authenticity, to a generation that's craving that human connection? So digital tools are great for, saving time and the innovation of it, and we need to be on top of it. But, how can we continue pushing forward? I love it, David. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course.
Joe, I'm going to hand it back to you. And I think we have a really exciting guest, Daniel, our VP of Research, coming on as well. Why don't you guys take it away?
Yeah, so I love the anticipation, and in the chat, David quickly showed insight number 5 slide, and everyone's like, "Where is that?" We want to hear more, and so that's what we brought Daniel Copeland on. Daniel's our VP of Research at Barna. Daniel, how you doing?
I'm good. It's nice to see you, Joe.
Good. Well, hey, let's jump into Insight 5 as we kind of close out our session here today, our webinar here today. But insight number 5 is says this: effective discipleship requires a bridge between digital and physical. So, Daniel, we did some great research, over the last couple of years with our partner Aspen Group, and where we kind of explored, this dynamic of like in this hyper digital world, how much do people actually want the physical in-person expression of ministry? And so you led a lot of this research. So I just kind of wanted to hand you the mic and the screen. So that's why I went off a screen share, because I just want you to share your screen and bring us through
Yeah.
some key insights and some takeaways.
Yeah, happy to do that. What I'd love to do with this last insight, so the insight being that there has to be a bridge between the in-person and the digital, is I want to challenge the idea that the church has often worked with, and as we as people have often worked with, is that there's an either or going on here, or that there is the in-person and the digital, that these are separate concepts. I think in the pandemic years, we were kind of forced to think about, oh, we're going online. Like we had to code switch in a way. We had to suddenly start thinking online as opposed to different. And what I wanted you to first look at is this piece of data where in a survey research project, we kind of treated it as an either or, where we asked people, if your church decided to no longer meet in a dedicated church building, how likely would you be to attend its services in any of the following ways? And we said online. And 29% of Christians said, yeah, very likely. I'd keep going to my church if it closed its doors and it no longer operated in person. I'd keep going. Then there's 40%, 2 out of 5, who say, no, not likely. I'm probably going to go find somewhere that's in person. And you've got another third that are right in the middle. And maybe this feels right to you as a church leader. Maybe this feels like what your experience would be if you couldn't worship in person. You might consider a new avenue, new place to worship. But we've often thought of it like this either or. It's in person or it's online. But the barrier between in person and online is breaking down. The bridge is already existing for so many people. I've seen so many of you in the chat talking about how AI and digital tools are helping people find churches. They're helping people discover God. And what you see is when you talk to Christians today, they're maybe not overwhelmingly, but really positive towards, hey, this online thing, this digital thing can help my faith. The majority of them say, I believe community can be formed online. The majority of them say, I believe meaningful relationships can be built online. I believe I can grow my faith online. I believe I can experience God online. So this breakdown between the in-person and the digital isn't that clear in the mind of the Christian today. And I always like to remind myself that the digital world we live in today, we couldn't have imagined 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, which means the digital world we're going to be living in 20 years and 30 years and 50 years, we probably can't imagine yet. So the world's going this direction anyways. But our dualisticness of thinking of it as this either or, online or digital, isn't always that helpful. And I would love to leave you with thinking about this data point, which I think backs up what so many of you have intuitively said in the chat already. In this survey question, we asked, as a Christian church, for each of the following, do you think this is more meaningful online or in person? And the blue, that navy blue, represents the things that people said, the percentage of people who said this is more meaningful in person. 72% children's ministry, 72% meeting people's physical needs, emotional support, welcoming visitors. Overwhelmingly, people said, no, this is better in person. We want it in person. Online is not this substitution for in person. Nobody is saying that amongst Christians. But look at the pink number, about the same. There's this growing number of people in very specific ways that when I read this, I would say they can't tell the difference. They don't know. 31% of people who say listening to a sermon or message is the same online or in person. 31% of Christians who say learning from the sermon or praying is the same online versus in person. I actually think that should be a real concern. If digital ministry is just a program, if it's just a thing we do, we act as if they're different things. And that leads people to saying, I really can't tell the difference. It's just a sermon. It's just prayer. It's just growing closer to God. Nothing that we do in ministry is just anything. It should be everything we should do should be a part of a discipleship journey. And so I look at this data and I say, what can only technology do? That's how I'd be thinking as a ministry leader today. I'd be thinking about how is technology a part of discipleship here in this church? How is it a part of the strategy, not a program we're managing over here that's got some attention on some days versus online or in-personness has got my attention other days. Make sure people know the difference. The world's going to keep going in a digital direction, whether we like it or not. What we need to know is how is discipleship part of, or how is technology part of our discipleship strategy?
Yeah, that's really great, Daniel. First of all, I just love like the fact that, and I'm seeing all this chatter in the chat right now, just like validating, like everyone's like, yes, this is about, it's not an either or, it's a both and. And what you're saying is validating the fact that like people are craving both, that people are wanting both. And what you and I kind of discussed earlier today was just like, uh, there's a permeable, more of a permeable membrane between these two realities for people. Like
Yeah.
people don't think, oh, I'm going to be in digital now. Oh, and then I'm going to go now. I'm going to be in the in-person realm now. It's like, no, they don't think like that, right? They're moving in
Yeah.
and out of these realms so fluidly because technology, for better or for worse, it is actually designed for that purpose, is to
Right.
move people in and out of these is like in one fluid existence. But what happens a lot of times in our churches, we tend to program in a very compartmentalized way, and where it's okay, here's our digital
Yeah.
strategy. Okay, here's our in-person strategy. And so I love all the, all the insights from the chat where everyone's kind of saying like, hey, no, this has to be both and. We have to figure out how to have a broader discipleship strategy that's not compartmentalized into digital and in person, but they move in and out fluidly in a way that kind of really resembles how people live their lives. They
Right.
should not go into church with a completely different construct of how to engage life and faith than they do Monday through Saturday. And so I think what you're saying through the research is like it validates the fact that that's what people are wanting. They want to be led, they want to be shepherded Monday through Saturday, not just Sunday, and not just in a very programmed, driven way. So hey, I want to close out because Daniel, you are a board member at a small, kind of a small and vibrant church in the Atlanta area. So, like, give us a takeaway from that perspective, not just as the researcher at Barna, but as the church leader in Atlanta. What's your takeaway? What would you, for people who are leading like you in that similar seat, what's your advice to them? Oh,
I muted myself and didn't realize I had to ask. Yeah, so I attended United Methodist Church on the east side of Atlanta. On a weekly basis, we have about 105 to 110 people who attend in person, and we have about another 200 who stream at either live during the service or at some point during the week. And it is one of the greatest questions that we ask ourselves as a board every single meeting. Are we an in-person church or are we a digital church? There are more people coming online, and we've reached out to some of these people and we've learned that some of them are people who can't physically make it to church because of illness or disability. We've learned that it's people who have moved away from the Atlanta area and just love this church and like to connect with it. We've learned that there are some international people who just somehow found us. And we always end up asking ourselves this question, is it okay to challenge them to come in person, to say that they're not getting the full experience, that we can love them better if we know them? And it's a challenge, it's a real tension because we're hopefully reaching them. But as everybody on this webinar knows, when you're in person with somebody, you can love them in a very deeper, different way than when you're just friends over social media. And so it's a real tension. And so, as a researcher who sits on the board of a church, I'm always asking our church and our staff to say, hey, we can't think that it's awkward or we can't think that it's incorrect to challenge these people the same way we would challenge somebody in person. what do we as a church want for that digital online attendee? We want them growing in their faith of Christ. We want them relationally connecting to others who are on the same or similar journeys. And so how digitalness becomes a part of the journey they're on is the most important conversation we have every single time we talk about that vital part of our congregation, not as an either or, but a both and, all on a journey that might just have started at a different doorway, a digital one.
Yeah, that's great. Now, by the way, the fact that you're a board member, I think it highlights the fact that like, let's talk, like, make sure you're bringing all the key leaders of your church into this, including your board, right? Like, you need to lead together, lead in a united way in this area. So Daniel, thanks so much for bringing your insights and your experience in. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, hey, we're going to close out our webinar today. We got through 5 insights in 1 hour. So good job, everyone, because you guys all contributed to that. So it wasn't just the people in the program today, but everyone was here in the room, in the webinar, and you guys were living, kind of lighting up the chat with some great insights. So we just want to say we're so thankful that you're here, that you showed up. I want to show you real quick, just a quick preview here of, if you can see this okay. This is the what I was talking about earlier, this free download, When Technology Leads to Transformation. And there's this great kind of like 5-step kind of guide to turn insights into action. And so this is a great follow-up if you're kind of wondering, what do I do now? You know, we got some great insights from the research. You know, what do we do now? I would just say, go through this, get this digital download. I'll share my screen too and kind of make sure I got the right, where are you? Okay, here it is.
I just put those in the chat again, so if
Great.
anyone needs the links, they are
Yeah,
right
you got the
there.
link here and it's on the screen here. So yeah, thanks Taylor for doing that. But yeah, go ahead and take advantage of this. And then like Chris Sharp said, he talked about this Subsplash product event. If you're wanting to know more about what Subsplash offers and what they're coming out with to help you in this, you know, make sure you take advantage of signing up for that. You can see the URL there, and I'm sure we have that in the chat as well. So Taylor, we got through our webinar, got through all the technical difficulties. Thanks everyone for bearing with us through that and participating. And
Someone put, it wouldn't be a digital, webinar with a little bit of technical difficulties, right?
I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we actually manufactured this whole thing on purpose as a huge illustration?
Exactly.
Maybe we did,
was.
maybe we didn't. Maybe I'll just leave that mystery. Like you'll have to log off wondering, did Barna just do that on purpose?
Right.
Of course we didn't, but yeah. So Taylor, thanks for joining me as my co-host on this program, and thanks to everyone, not just for showing up here, but for doing what you do. We know that it's tireless, it can be exhausting, but you showing up every day to minister to the people in your church and community, to be good shepherds in this world that so desperately needs good shepherds. So keep doing what you're doing. We're in your corner. Subsplash and Barn are here to support you, to cheer you on. We love you guys. And until the next time we see you, have a great day and keep doing the good work that the Lord has called you to do.
Thanks, everyone.